Thank you so much for attending the INCOMPAS Policy Summit. I'm Angie Cronenberg. I'm the president of INCOMPAS and just thrilled to see so many of you in the room, but even just more thrilled to be introducing our next speaker, FCC Commissioner Geoffrey Starks. He is the biggest Kansas City Chief fan in the room. Oh, wait. No, I got that wrong.
No, that's true.
I don't know. I think maybe we should have a little showdown between Chris Shipley and the commissioner. What do you think? Oh, and Dale Schmick is here too. So, we got a couple of men in the audience that are just as proud as the commissioner about the Kansas City Chiefs win in the Super Bowl. And, I know when you have 3 wins in such a short time frame, the haters are going to hate, but I am not one of them. Okay. All right. No, in all seriousness, we are just so happy to have the commissioner back with us. Many of you know that he has been committed to bringing affordable, competitive broadband service to every American. At our policy summit last year, he was the very first FCC commissioner to call for Congress to extend Affordable Connectivity Program funding, which is absolutely critical to ensure this program that currently is serving over 23 million low-income households to stay connected to broadband. It's scheduled to be out of funding in a very short time frame. The FCC just released a public notice yesterday saying that the full funding will run out in April and only partial funding will be available in May. I know he's going to talk more about this. INCOMPAS supports Congress moving forward with the bipartisan, bicameral ACP Extension Act. We think this is so important. Let's give it up. I know many of you have been talking to the commissioner and his fantastic staff. Justin is here. I think they may have a few other folks from the staff about what we can do to be helpful in calling for this additional funding. There's a role for each of us in this room to be playing. INCOMPAS will be on the Hill tomorrow, meeting with so many offices. I can't remember the last count I saw. If you've not signed up for Lobby Day, you need to sign up for Lobby Day and help us with this big push. It's really so important. So Commissioner Starks, you saw him hugging Commissioner Clyburn. So I think there's always just been this close connection because he took her seat. And many of you know that I worked for Commissioner Clyburn at the first part of the Obama administration. So there's like a family connection here. And we're just thrilled that you're here to talk to us about the great work that you've been doing. You have a fantastic resume. Everybody knows how much you're making a difference. And we want to say thank you for that. And we really look forward to hearing your comments.
Well, thank you, Angie. Set the table right there between Chiefs, ACP, and of course, I am deeply honored as ever to have followed in the footsteps of Commissioner Clyburn and continue. Really, these jobs are unique in the ability to serve the American people. And I have traveled across the country on the issue that I'm going to talk about here today. But more than that, thrilled to join INCOMPAS Policy Summit here again this year. We truly do stand at a crossroad in the landscape of communications and digital equity. I believe that. And as we navigate the complexities of the 21st century, one thing has remained unchanged, and that is our commitment to ensuring that every American everywhere, regardless of where you live or how much you make, has access to reliable, affordable, high-speed internet. Access to the internet is not just a matter of convenience. It's a fundamental issue of fairness and a necessity for participating in modern life. In many ways, our journey towards a more connected, competitive, and equitable future, I believe, is at a tipping point. Hard-fought gains are at risk of slipping backwards. I want to zero in on one place, as Angie had mentioned, that is more true than ever, and that is in the refunding of the Affordable Connectivity Program. that's connecting millions, nearly 24 million households throughout America with free internet access. And so nearly a year ago today, also after a Chiefs Super Bowl win, I stood on this stage and the first to call for a secure funding path for ACP. I believe that then, I believe that now. The case, in fact, has only grown stronger. It was clear, and the ensuing months have only reified that ACP is a once-in-a-lifetime catalyst to bridge the digital divide. So since I first called for refunding the ACP, the growth has continued to explode. It already exploded through EBB, ACP, for those of you in the room who know what I'm talking about. But just year over year, from last year to this year, we went from 16 million households to 23 million households. We've overcome numerous challenges as we have faced in getting those households connected, spreading the word, gaining trust, language barriers, just the enrollment execution itself. All of these, we have put and pulled these hurdles out of the way. And all in all, we have created a program that is very effective nationwide. But let's briefly set the stage here. Go back to August of 2021. Congress, as we heard even from a number of colleagues here before that were focusing on BEAD, Congress was crafting legislation with the COVID pandemic in mind, as well as working to resolve those universal challenges that inequitable broadband deployment and access meant for millions of American households. And so working together, a bipartisan Congress adopted the Infrastructure and Investments Jobs Act, the IIJA, stepping up to the plate with a historic investment to connect all Americans with high-speed broadband. The IIJA made two complementary investments to ensure that no one got left behind. The first was the, of course, $42.5 billion BEAD program to build broadband to unserved and then underserved locations. And the second was the $14.2 billion for the Affordable Connectivity Program to provide that $30 subsidy per month against the price of broadband subscription, $75 for tribal companies, of course, communities, of course, and a one-time discount against the price of a broadband device. And so Congress wisely realized that there are two challenges here when it comes to closing the digital divide, and that they are in fact interrelated. First, we must build broadband to reach the doorstep of all Americans everywhere. Harder than it sounds. Second, millions of households quite simply cannot afford broadband without assistance. And so according to the Government Accountability Office, nearly 1/3 of disconnected Americans say cost is an obstacle to standing in their way to subscribing to broadband. And that's where ACP, of course, comes in, ensuring that when high-quality, high-speed broadband is both available and affordable, ISPs can deploy networks with less risk and more certainty that households will subscribe. And importantly, that also means that deployment itself is less expensive. Because households enrolled in ACP lead to less churn for ISPs, they add significantly to both the potential and realized subscriber base of a network, which facilitates more deployment. A landmark study concluded that ACP works hand in glove with BEAD, reducing the subsidy necessary to support ISP network deployment by 25%. And so what that really means, is that as NTIA, as I'm sure you heard, approves these state BEAD plans, federal funds are going to start to flow. That means those dollars are going to stretch further and be able to impact more households in BEAD and reach more unserved and underserved households thanks to the existence of ACP. And so no one's going to fall out of their chair when I say that due to a lack of funding, ACP is in grave jeopardy. In fact, we've already started the wind down process here at the FCC. Shutting down the program would push those subscribing households to make hard decisions. Unless as of February 7th, we stopped enrolling new enrollees, and now we are in that 2-month wind down where we're trying to figure out how to manage the program, but manage those that are currently enrolled. Here's the hard decision that these households are going to have to make. First, potentially face a skyrocketing monthly internet bill for that vulnerable household, or second, disconnecting from the internet itself. We cannot let that happen. To put it plainly, ACP is the most effective program we've had in helping low-income Americans get online and stay online. In fact, it's been the most successful program ever in the decades-long bipartisan effort to solve the digital divide. ACP's success, of course, lies in its universal appeal. Americans from all 50 states are enrolled. When the commission was forced to freeze enrollment, over 130 households, this is the freeze numbers here, over 130 households in my home state of Kansas, over 270,000 in Nevada, 1.1 million in Ohio, 1.7 million in Florida, 558,000 in Louisiana, 552,000 in Arizona, 470,000 in Virginia. That's, of course, just a smattering. What is that? 6 states? Enrollment was growing steadily at the time, week over week. Notably, the program surpassed something that I've continued to foot stomp, surpassed expectations in rural enrollment. Let that be said clearly. And no wonder the program was so popular. Nationwide, nearly 78% of residents surveyed by AARP said they support Congress continuing to fund the program. That same study found that ACP enables those personal connections online for seniors, which combats loneliness, well documented for folks. And there are a lot of ways to look at the data. Let me give you a few ways that I have thought about the data, because it's clear that ACP is making a real difference in communities that are historically underserved. So data shows that approximately 50% of households participating in ACP are Black and Latino. Let me say that again. 50% of households participating in ACP are Black and Latino. Over 329,000 tribal households. ACP is also supporting elderly Americans with over 4 million seniors and 10 million Americans over the age of 50 benefiting from the program each month. Finally, looking at the data, nearly half again of the families are military families. So simply put, ACP is helping to meet Americans in all walks of their life. I've seen it firsthand, the impact that ACP has had on vulnerable households. As a true champion of ACP, I've crisscrossed the country to help push and increase enrollment. I see so many friends in the audience that have also worked side by side with me in helping to get enrollments up, increasing awareness of the program. But truly, I have more than anything endeavored to hear directly from people, the people, on how having access to affordable, high-quality broadband impacts them, impacts their lives, what the risk now of losing it would mean. And so let me share just a few of their stories with you. You don't have to take my word for it. I met Jerry, a senior living in public housing in Chicago, enrolled in ACP. He's lived his whole life without ever even owning a computer until ACP helped him through the program. He got connected with digital literacy courses, received his first computer, and what he really did with that computer is what really matters. He took virtually those classes and took the important steps to improve his ailing healthcare with access to the internet, including reapplying for his healthcare benefits online. Denise, a mother of 4 young children who could not afford to pay for internet service, and that was a real problem for her. Her children were attending grade school remotely, relied on internet access as they shifted from textbooks to online learning. And her children, she told me, were in risk of falling behind. Thanks to ACP, she got her internet for free. And I can see her face right now. She looked at me with a combination of grave worry and deep frustration, and said she truly did not know what was going to happen for her family, if and when ACP goes away. Tim Lake was a senior in Lake County, Illinois. He's 80, but was spry, active, was wearing a trench coat and was dressed impeccably, said that he was computer illiterate, had never even turned on a computer in his great 80 years on this earth. When he first heard of ACP, like many of you in the room who have worked with folks and getting folks enrolled, he said it was just too good to be true. And so he hesitated for a really long time. Thanks to ACP, he got digital literacy courses, sent his first text message to his grown daughter. Her reply, of course, was, "Dad, welcome to the 21st century." Thought that was funny. But like many seniors, Tim, of course, also took advantage of broadband and had a significant medical diagnosis as well. ACP has helped him with his telehealth. Last story. I could go on. I've met people from Portland to Seattle to Santa Fe. I know Senator Lujan will be here, I understand, later. And I've had the great pleasure of traveling out there with him to visit tribal communities, talk to them about ACP. Chicago, Atlanta, New Jersey. All folks have their own story, like we all do in life, but they all have a similar message when you're talking to these low-income households. And so Deborah also is in federal housing assistance. Moved away from her family and her church community. Told me that thanks to ACP, she now finds herself hooked on the internet. She goes to church online, Zoom church, and speaks to her grandkids every week. She's taking advantage as well to use MapQuest. She MapQuests everything before she decides to go outside of her house. Started a knitting business online. And I was there visiting her just after Valentine's Day. She said she has started online dating for seniors. I didn't ask any more questions, but I wished her luck. But when we discussed the end of this program, she asked me as well, what am I going to do to keep up with what this has put in my life? And she said as well, in a truly heartbreaking way, am I going to have to eat less food? That's just crazy, y'all. So the time has come. Time has come to act. Without additional appropriations from Congress, we just announced that April will be the last fully funded month of ACP. And so this means that in a few short weeks, millions of Americans will no longer have access to connectivity that they have come to rely on for their healthcare, for their jobs, for connections with their family, with their kids, education, and more. These are the families who know what it means to try to stretch dollars. They really do. And they're struggling to figure out how they're going to stay online if ACP ends. And truth be told, unfortunately, I predict that the end result will be that many of these households will be unable to stay online, will be unable to stay connected. According to survey data collected by the FCC, 68% of households say that they had inconsistent or zero connectivity prior to ACP. 80% of them citing affordability as the reason for their lack of connectivity. This same survey reported that 77% of respondents say that losing their ACP benefit would disrupt their service, make them change their plans, or drop internet service completely. Another study of unconnected households found that the mean price respondents say they could pay would be at most $10. The majority of them said they couldn't pay anything. And a majority of these households are subscription vulnerable, meaning that they find the internet very difficult to fit into their monthly budgets. And so, taking a step back and looking at some of the macro policies in place here, I just really see if ACP goes away, there are very limited options. A few states do have affordability programs that could serve as a backstop. So then that means we're looking to what I will say generously is the charity of internet service providers. ISPs have agreed to create low-cost plans in partnership with ACP. Many of you were there when we were at the White House, where they announced that over 80% of folks would be now able to have free internet. But there's little business case I foresee for ISPs to keep nearly 24 million households connected for free in the absence of support. And so we're funding to lapse. The loss of trust, I think, is also a significant factor for these former subscribers. I think that'd be substantial and would be difficult to stand up ACP or some iteration of it as a replacement program in the future, including trying to just keep these households online at all. And so I think this would be a devastating loss of households' connectivity. And truly, to again have the human element of this, I think would be devastating to these households. Nearly a quarter of teens living in households making less than $30,000 per year say that they sometimes cannot complete their homework. Again, the homework gap that we've long heard about due to the lack of reliable computer or internet access. The commission's, the FCC survey again shows that among students 18 to 24, 75% are using ACP to complete their schoolwork. Access to the internet also increases enrollment and earnings for low-income users. That benefits us all, right? Access to telehealth is a game changer. Data showing it increases access to care, decreases costs. And 72% of ACP households report using their broadband service to schedule those healthcare appointments. And so these studies highlight that at times when broadband is most needed, loss of a job, healthcare, scares, these are the times that households actually run to, are in need of connectivity. These are the households that otherwise are going to struggle to pay for it. I'm an optimist at heart. I've been working hard on the Hill. You all have worked hard on the Hill. I know many of you believe deeply in this program. There is good cause for hope. Because of the program's truly widespread adoption, calls for ACP refunding have come from nearly every part of the country. President Biden has urged Congress to fund the program as part of his budget, recently called again for Congress to extend its funding. There's a bipartisan, bicameral effort to fund ACP, the Affordable Connectivity Program Extension Act. I proudly and strongly support that work, and I'm working hard with our folks on the Hill. Nearly 400 government leaders in industry, public interest groups have supported that effort as well. State and local levels, nearly 26 bipartisan governors, 174 mayors have urged Congress to act. I stand ready and willing to do what it does to make Congress hopefully bear some fruit here. I'm hoping I can count on you to do the same. And so let me close here. It was just about 2 weeks ago. I was driving with my kids. We were driving about an hour and a quarter away to go see family. And so for those of you in the room who have kids, it wasn't a long drive, but they kept asking me that question that you always hear from the back seat, which is, are we there yet? Are we there yet? And so after you hear your kid, for the parents in the room, after you hear your kids ask the same question about 10, 11, 12 times, you actually stop and think about it. And you don't have that knee-jerk reflex. And so I started to really stop and think about it. What are they asking me? Are we there yet? It really is about a shared destination. It's about a common journey, a joint goal. But there's also that sense of urgency, right? Are we there yet? And so as I start to think about what is our shared goal in the digital divide, I know for me, it is that we provide every American everywhere with high quality, affordable access to the internet. That's what I work for. I know so many of you in the room do as well. And so, if we stop and ask ourselves, if I ask myself, are we there yet on our goal, our shared goal for digital divide? I think we're still on the way, is the answer that I'd give. We're still on the way. But I believe that ACP is an essential part of how we get there. So, our journey towards a more connected and equitable future is fraught with challenges, but I deeply believe together we can transform the digital landscape to empower communities and foster growth nationwide. We've made real progress, y'all. We really have. But we cannot let it slide backwards. President Biden said just a few weeks ago in North Carolina, I believe with my colleague here, he said high-speed internet is not a luxury anymore. It's an absolute necessity. I agree. And so I'm excited for the future. For all Americans, that we continue to get that high-speed, affordable broadband. ACP is essential to that goal. So let's keep on pushing, y'all. Thank you for the time. Appreciate it.